Is romance an unspoken requirement now? Will a manuscript be able to stand out without it? Yes, it will. Especially if it's got some kind of really unique plot. Personally, I just love romance. So for me, it's almost like an unspoken requirement because, I love romance. But I do have novels without romance in them because, for example, I have a client who has a book about a boy growing up in Hitler Germany, and there's a romance in that. Well, gosh darn it. Your picture books don't have to have romance. I don't know. I'm the wrong person to ask for that one. Do you prefer specific POV in middle grade and YA? Jen, I will get to you in a second. Do I prefer specific POV in middle grade and YA? I prefer third person, past tense. But honestly, I really don't care. Everyone knows, at least on Twitter, that I hate present tense, first person present tense, and that's because people just do not know how to do it right. People always screw up on their grammar and they end up in past tense for like a couple sentences and whatever, but I am not going to notice if it's done well. I don't care what POV it's in or what tense it's in if it's done right. If you have frizzy hair, I would recommend either chopping it and really short, or growing it really long and putting mousse in it. What do you see as an ideal agent-author relationship? Is that a question authors should ask an agent offering representation? Absolutely, you should ask your agent and any agent offering you representation what they expect from you, how they're going to deal with you and interact with you. My ideal agent-author relationship is an open one. I do not want my clients to feel like they cannot come to me with concerns. If they disagree with my suggestions, I want them to tell me. I like to have a lot of communication with my clients, and I expect them to be working really hard, and I expect myself to be working really hard. On their end, that means to keep writing, to keep their spirits up and not freak out, although they do freak out, and I do not know why, because I love their work. And on my end, that means doing my job, which is pitching and not giving up on their work or stop believing in them. I am sort of still writing. I can't for the life of me think of like great plots. I mean, I don't know. At this point, writing is sort of like maybe. How do I feel about books taking place in the 80s or 90s? You know what? I would say I'm not too crazy about books taking place in the 80s or 90s, but, especially the 80s, I just was not a huge fan of the 80s, because it's really tough to get, I think it's really tough to get a feel for the closer genres because they're so close to now that you really, really, really have to set it up so that you know that you're set in that time. But the 90s, okay, that can be kind of cool because I just had a client who finished a manuscript set with part of it was set in the 90s, and she's one of the characters is talking through time travel-ish thingy to someone today, and that got kind of cool because you get to see the difference between 1991 and 2001, and like there were no cell phones or computers or there was a computer, but it was like the box thing, whatever, that had like a trash can that you could put stuff in. I don't even know what you would put in that trash can because you couldn't do anything on the computer, but whatever. Rambling answer to question. If you don't have any writing-related credentials, what do I like to see in the bio section of the query letter? Go to my blog, adventuresinagentland.blogspot.com. I'll type it up in agentland.blogspot.com. Go there, and I have a cheater's guide to requested materials where I give you the cheater's way out to write a synopsis and a bio without having any creds, and a query letter. Yay! Honestly, I'm interested in steampunk. I'm just not entirely sure how I feel about steampunk. So if you have an amazing steampunk, then I would figure it out, I guess. Is there a magic wand you can use to delete one sub and resubmit with the revised one? You know what? I'll tell you what. Usually I have had people do this, and if I haven't read it yet, if you want to go ahead and send it in, email me first telling me I'm resending my query to you because I changed it dramatically and I really want you to read this version instead of this version. And I will either tell you, okay, I will get rid of the other one and go ahead and send it back in, or, oh, I'm sorry, I've already read it. No. I am a career agent, so if I represent an author whose book doesn't sell, I automatically do turn to future projects. Because when I represent an author, it's because I believe in their writing and their work, and I believe that even if the one that I signed doesn't sell, which I really hope it does because I'm in love with it, down the road one will sell because they're amazing. How much of my day is spent reading queries, working on client issues, drinking gin with editors? I don't drink gin with any editors, unfortunately, since I'm on the West Coast. So I can tweet to editors and talk on the phone to editors unless I actually make a trip out to New York. The majority of my day is not, I'd say, like, reading queries. My god, I get to them on like Wednesdays and Thursdays only, and that's probably like 5% of my day. Working on client issues, I wouldn't really call most of what I work on with my client issues, unless they're freaking out, which does happen. Most of what I work on with my clients is revisions and submission processes and putting together pitch letters and sublists and blah blah blah. That takes up the other 20 hours of my week that's not spent being an office assistant. Anthropomorphic Stories. What do you mean by stories? Do you mean like short stories? Because I would not look at short stories. If you're talking about anthropomorphic, like a book on it, yeah, I'd look at it. You know, I think that if you're, okay, the question is there, what about lower middle grade word count 20 to 30K? This person has seen some like Scholastic Candy Apple series or Andrew Clement's. Is there a market for reluctant readers? You know, the fact that you can only mention one publisher that's publishing these makes it so would be a tough sell. I'm not interested in something that's going to have to go to 1 or 2 or 3 select publishers. I'm looking for things that I can sell widely with more of an audience, which is why I don't represent the lower middle grade 20 to 30K type of genres. I do Google potential clients. but it doesn't matter if I find anything or not. I just kind of like to see if they're out there. Yeah, especially when I'm close to making an offer. Absolutely, I would represent a very young author. They would have to be great, because the problem with a lot of younger writers is they're not developed. But if you are almost there and you're like 15, dear God, you're going to be like amazing when you're 21. I mean, so yeah. I would at least give you great feedback. Best time of year to query? December, because like all publishing shuts down. Maybe April-ish? I don't know. There's really no best time of year to query. But the worst time of year for me is January, because I'm doing all the 1099s and the foreign tax in our office, and that takes yeah. What is a book I wish I would have represented? Ella Enchanted. I keep mentioning that lately. It's because I signed a book that reminded me of Ella Enchanted recently, and so it's just been back in my mind. At what point should an author approach? Oh no! The question got lost under my window. Okay. Okay, I'm thinking this question is asking what point should an author approach an agent who's requested their material if the time frame has been exceeded, if the reading period has been exceeded. Well, first make sure that the agent is in a no response equals no agency. I hate when people contact me about their manuscripts. I really, really, really hate when they call me about their manuscripts. Oh yeah, I can, well, I can scroll up, huh? I'm so smart. I think that if they have your full, there we go. If they have your full and they requested it, I think 6 weeks would probably, 6 to 8 weeks would be a reasonable period to check in after. But no earlier than 6 weeks at least. But, you know, honestly, if they have your manuscript, they will contact you if they want it. So if they're not getting, I know that you want a response no matter what, but if it's been a while and they're not getting back to you, that may mean they just don't have passion for it, and they may not be the best agent for you anyway. So, what trends am I seeing right now in middle grade and YA? All sorts of trends. Mermaids, seeing lots of mermaids. I'm seeing, what am I seeing? Lots of different stuff. Middle grade, I'm seeing a lot of kind of chicklet type of lighter stuff. Seeing a lot of magic. Magic is coming back. Fairies, which is cool, for me at least. Not so many werewolves anymore, which is good. And I just don't look at the vampires, so I don't know if there's a lot of those anymore.